Let's jump right into episode 4.2 of our explainer, Freight Negotiation and the World Scale System. Today, we're diving straight into the absolute chaos and high-stakes reality of quoting freight across thousands of different global tanker routes. It's this giant, fascinating puzzle of maritime commerce that ultimately decides exactly how these massive ships actually make their money. So let's break it all down.
I mean, just imagine trying to quote freight on literally thousands of different routes. You've got wildly varying distances, totally different port costs, canal fees, the whole shebang. If we just used a plain dollars per ton metric, comparing any two quotes from different ships on different routes would be practically meaningless. You're essentially comparing apples to oranges, but on a massive global scale. So the big question is, how on earth does the industry instantly price all this chaos before a single ton of cargo even moves?
Well, the industry solved this massive headache with one standardized number. It's a really punchy, brilliant solution that acts as the great equalizer across the globe, taking what used to be a super opaque and complex negotiation and turning it into something streamlined and instantly comparable. Here's our roadmap for the life cycle of a deal today. First, setting the freight price. Second, the world scale system. Third, the voyage charter clock. Fourth, demurrage and dispatch. And finally, 3 other charter structures. Let's get into it. Starting with part 1, setting the freight price and the role of the shipbroker. Because really, finding the cargo is where the entire financial journey of a gas carrier begins.
Look, shipbrokers are the essential fixers here. They're the ones who actually make freight markets function. These are the intermediaries out there connecting owners who have available tonnage with the charters who actually have cargo to move. They're negotiating the rates and terms on both sides. And what's really powerful about brokers is that they hold critical market knowledge that neither party fully has on their own. For gas carrier fixture, the broker's read on current tonnage availability plus competing cargoes directly shapes what rate an owner can hold out for. They literally bridge the knowledge gap to make the deal happen.
Moving right along to part 2, the world scale system, or how we standardize global routes. This is the actual formula those brokers use to price a shipment. So world scale is this published, standardized freight rate index. Every single year, a nominal flat rate, expressed in dollars per ton, is calculated and published for thousands of specific voyage combinations. And it's based on a standard vessel's assumed costs for that exact route. We're talking distance, bunker fuel consumption, port costs, canal fees. It is all baked in. That published flat rate is what we call World Scale 100, or just WS 100. Because all those messy, underlying route-specific cost differences are already baked right into that baseline, you get a perfect, level starting point for negotiations.
Let's actually put this into practice to see how it works. Actual freight is quoted as a percentage of that flat rate. So, quick check. If a route's published WS 100 flat rate is $20 per ton, what does the charter actually pay if they negotiate a rate of WS 80? Yep, $16 per ton. You're just taking 80% of $20. That is the entire mechanic right there. You take the published flat rate for the specific route, apply whatever percentage you negotiated, and boom, that's your final freight cost per ton. It's a real game changer because it lets a broker or charter instantly compare rates across completely different routes and vessel sizes.
But you know, a negotiated rate actually means absolutely nothing until it's locked into a contract. That brings us to Section 3. The voyage charter clock. Let's look at how the industry uses standard forms, like the ASBA Tanko Voy. You can basically think of a voyage charter as renting a trip. You're hiring the ship for one specific voyage or maybe a set of voyages. The owner runs and crews the ship, and they bear all the operating costs. Fuel, maintenance, salaries, you name it. The charterer, on the other hand, simply pays freight for the cargo carried. But here's the high-stakes reality for the ship owner. Their profits rely entirely on the speed of operations. The faster that trip is completed, the better their margin. It's that simple. So let's walk through the exact chronological sequence of this money clock. First, the ship arrives at the specified location and is, in all respects, ready to operate. Second, a notice of readiness, or NOR, is tendered and accepted. And the very second that NOR is accepted, the money clock starts ticking. Third, laytime begins. This is the fixed number of hours or days the contract actually allows for loading and discharging before any extra charges kick in. And fourth, if operations exceed that allowed laytime, demurrage accrues. Which leads us nicely into Section 4, demurrage and dispatch. the penalties and rewards. These clauses dictate exactly what happens to the money when that laytime clock runs out, or on the flip side, when it gets beaten.
Just to emphasize the incredibly strict, unforgiving nature of maritime contracts, ask yourself this: does a charterer owe demurrage automatically once laytime runs out, or only if they can actually prove the delay was someone's fault? It's automatic. Absolutely no fault needed. Think of it kind of like returning a rental car late. The agency totally doesn't care if you were stuck in traffic, they're just going to charge you for the extra day. Demurrage is a pre-agreed liquidated damages figure paid per day or pro rata purely for using the ship's time beyond what was contracted. You don't have to prove fault, you only have to prove that the time was used. And honestly, this is exactly why laytime calculations are scrutinized so closely and fiercely debated by both sides. Now let's contrast two more vital financial outcomes. First up, dead freight. This is the compensation the owner is entitled to when a charterer fails to load the full agreed-upon cargo quantity. It covers the freight the owner would have earned on that missing tonnage, because remember, the ship still burned the exact same amount of fuel and time getting there. On the flip side, you have dispatch. This is essentially demurrage in reverse. It's a reward, usually at half the demurrage rate, paid to the charterer for finishing loading or discharging faster than the allowed lay time. And that pretty much completes the economic mechanics of a single voyage fixture.
Okay, that covers the foundation of single voyages. Let's zoom out a bit for Section 5, 3 other charter structures. Because there are a few other fundamental ways you can rent a ship in the maritime universe, beyond just the single voyage.
Let's walk through this grid side by side to really see the differences. We already know the voyage charter, right? Next up is the time charter. This is where the charterer hires the ship for a defined period, like months or even years, and directs its voyages while paying a fixed daily hire rate. But crucially, the owner still crews and maintains it. Then we have the contract of affreightment, or COA. Here, the owner commits to carrying a defined series of cargoes over a set period, but they actually get the flexibility to nominate whichever ship in their fleet fits the shipment best. And finally, we have the demise or bareboat charter, which is the most complete transfer of all. Quick check to solidify this ultimate extreme of maritime contracts. In a demise or bareboat charter, who is actually responsible for crewing the ship? You guessed it, the charterer crews the ship. This is literally the only structure where the owner genuinely transfers all technical management, crewing, and operational responsibility. The charterer effectively becomes the disponent owner for that entire period. While in voyage and time charters, the owner always keeps those crewing duties, a demise charter is a total 100% handover of the vessel. As the saying goes, mastering these commercial contracts is just as vital as mastering the physical gas engineering. Every single valve turned, every pump started, it is all governed by these exact economics. So I leave you with this question. The next time you're out there on the water, are you just managing the machinery, or are you actually managing the margin? Thanks so much for joining me as we unpacked this incredible world of freight negotiation. See you next time.